Longtime subscribers to this channel know that when my family left our apartment in Manhattan for a house in the outer borough of Staten Island, my mom told me I had to get rid of half of my books, my comic books, and I did. But I kept the other half. And in this series, the comics my mom let me keep, I've been showing them off. Well, today I have some disparate Superman and Batman related comic books that I found in the final long box, and I'm going to show them off to you. So stay tuned for the video. Anachronic. Hi comic fans, I'm Joe and welcome to Anachronic Comics. So again, in this episode of the comics my mom let me keep, I have some Superman related and Batman related comics. It's kind of interesting. I'm down to about the last half a box of the comics my mom let me keep. And that's when we moved in 1969. So they were all 1969 or earlier comic books. And so in this one, I did find a number of books, and I'm going to have in the next few episodes some disparate books that I haven't shown, not really, kind of series or things like that, though we have portions of them. So in this first one, what I have is some Lois Lane comic books. And you're going to see they're going to be in terrible shape, a lot of them, but, that's the way it was. Who knew, right? Who knew? So here we have Coverless and Falling Apart. We have Lois Lane number 15. And as you see here, it's got the super family of Steel. And apparently you see Superman and Lois married for 5 years. That's what the wedding cake, or I guess anniversary cake, says. All right, and they have 2 kids that seem to have superpowers. So, is this really Superman and Lois? Is it an imaginary tale? Well, it's not an imaginary tale, and it's not Superman and Lois. What happened was this guy from Kandor, Van Z, who looked a lot like Superman, came up because he fell in love with Lois from just watching on whatever monitors they had there where they can see the outside world. They are in the Fortress of Solitude in that bottle that Brainiac put them in, and they have an ability through something that Superman put together to see what's going on. And so he falls in love with Lois, but it ends up being a problem, obviously. And then they find someone who looks just like Lois, because they said there's got to be people who look like Lois. And he does, and they fall in love. But the confusion between having like 2 Loises and effectively 2 people who look like Superman or Clark is too much. So they end up going into the bottle of Kandor, and they live their life there. So not an imaginary tale, but it's not Superman and Lois. That's Lois Lane number 15, and this was from February of 1960. Okay, I wish it was in better shape, but it's not. Now the next one is again kind of falling apart. A lot of these I don't even know. I mean, they're in the old bag and boards, but I'm almost afraid to take them out because you can see in the back here when I changed it the last time, you got some pieces that are falling apart in this thing. So I mean, I keep these because they're part of my childhood, but I don't know, maybe I should just give them away as bonus books to people. Anyway, so you see here we have Lois Lane, when Lois Lane became Cinderella. So what's the story? And they had a lot of stories like this. But in this story, Lois is always trying to find out Superman's secret identity. And of course, she does find out eventually. Was it 1991? I think. But anyway, getting back to this. And so Superman's basically tired of this. And so he comes up with this scheme to get Lois outside of, doing this type of stuff. So he says he's going to give her the opportunity to live out, I guess it's not 3 different lifetimes, but live as if she was 3 different historical people. Let's see, Helen of Troy, Cinderella, which we see here, and Florence Nightingale. And of course, things go wrong for Lois, as you can see here in the Cinderella thing. And since she's not able to accomplish the challenge of Superman, she doesn't find out what his secret identity is. And ideally, she's not supposed to continue doing that, but of course she does, because that's the storyline. And that's most of the Lois Lane storylines back then. So this is Lois Lane number 48, and it's from April of 1964. Now we go on. Another important character in 1960 Silver Age Superman is Jimmy Olsen. And his book was called Superman's Pal, Jimmy Olsen. And he's the one, of course, who got the special wristwatch where he can call Superman and so forth. And so here I haven't managed to keep, I could see why, I managed to keep Superman's Pal, Jimmy Olsen, number 100. Okay? I guess because it was the 100th anniversary issue. And this is called The Weird Wedding of Jimmy Olsen. All right? So basically, he was always in love with Lucy Lane, Lois's sister, and always, tried to get her to marry him, whatever else, and it never really worked out. Well, apparently, it was working out, and he's getting ready. He proposes to her. She says yes, but Mr. McSiplick's girlfriend from the fifth dimension, and I can't say her name. I'm sorry, but I'll give it a try. Miss Gipsipnen. Puts a hex on the couple, so everything goes wrong. And matter of fact, she impersonates Supergirl, and they just figure out that the marriage isn't going to work, and they annul the marriage. So they get married, but the marriage gets annulled. So it's as if it never really happened. And so this was the 100th anniversary issue, the 100th issue of Superman's Pal, Jimmy Olsen. Typical type of storylines that they had in these things. Superboy, number 93, and this is from this with a cover date of December 1961. And then you see Lana Lang, and she has a Superboy identity detection kit. Like Lois in what would be the present in the comic book area, Lana was really suspicious in thinking that Clark Kent was Superboy for the same various reasons, never around together, blah, 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 the same type of thing. What happens? The Legion of Superheroes. Chameleon Boy comes into the past from the 30th century and makes himself into a Superboy type of person, or Clark Kent actually type of person. And when Lana is ready to prove it by taking x-rays of both, because both characters are there, and she wants to show that they are, some sort of like either robot or something like that. But Chameleon Boy's bones showed through on the x-ray. Superboy's do not. So she feels now that Superboy has proven that he and Clark Kent are two separate people. There are other stories in here. If you have to remember, these books in the back usually had 2 or 3 stories in them. They didn't generally have issue-length stories. So, pretty cool one. And a nice 1961 Superboy. The next one is looks more interesting than it basically is. But it's Superman number 181 from 1965. It's 1965, so the cover says the story is the introducing the Superman of 2965. This story basically introduces this character. I don't know that I ever remember seeing this character in another book, but it basically, shows the character, and he begins his hero career in 2965 by changing the course of a rogue planet and capturing some criminals. So, not a big deal, but cover makes it look pretty cool, right? All right. Now, the next one is kind of an interesting cover. Now, this actually was a pretty interesting story in that Superman is summoned by some of his Justice League members. And Aquaman found this device in the ocean, and Superman finds out that it was a device that actually recorded some work that his father Jor-El had done before deciding to send his little baby Kal-El to Earth. And what it showed was that there were a number of other different worlds that he was looking at. And in each one of the worlds, depending on the sun and the gravity and the rest of the stuff, Superman would have been different characters. And so he would have taken on, for example, in one of the Earths, he would have taken on super speed like the Flash. And another one, he would have been small like the Atom. And it kind of goes through each one of those, and it basically comes up with the conclusion that Jor-El felt that Kal-El, baby Kal-El, would not be happy in any of these worlds, but would be happiest on Earth. And that's why he sent his son Kal-El to Earth, and that's why we have Superman. Okay? Pretty interesting. Next one I have is Superman number 166, and this is from January of 1964. Okay? Again, another one where you see Superman married to somebody and with twins, super twins, as kids. So, what's this one about? Well, it's called The Fantastic Stories. It's an imaginary novel, okay? And we used to love these imaginary novels, and today we call them Elseworlds, but it was because they could do different things that they wouldn't do in the normal timeline. So in this one, you have a parallel Earth, Earth 166, where Superman is married to an unnamed woman. They don't say who it is. He has some kids while they're there, and only one of them gets superpowers. Sounds sounds a lot like the current Superman show on the CW. I think so. Okay. All right, the next one I have is Action Comics number 293, and this is from October of 1962. All right, The Secret Origin of Supergirl's Super Horse. So in this particular issue, Supergirl finds out that Comet, the Super Horse, has telepathy powers. And through the telepathy, Comet tells her his story. And the story is that he was a centaur back in olden days, I guess. His name was Byron, all right? And as a centaur, he attempted to save Circe, the enchantress, from an evildoer named Maldor. So Circe, in order to thank him, gave him a potion that was supposed to change him into a human, a total human. However, Maldor, to get back at Byron, altered the potion and made him into a horse instead of a human. So Circe felt bad, and what she did was give him another potion, since she couldn't reverse Maldor's potion, gave him another potion which basically gave him superpowers. Gave him like super strength, immortality, and the telepathy power. And he was exiled Maldor exiled him to another constellation. When Supergirl's rocket passed by, somehow it released him and freed him, and he followed her back to Earth, and that's how she got to have the Super Horse. So that was the title story. Obviously, there was another story in here as well. So that was the origin of Comet the Super Horse. Next one is a pretty big one. It's a key. Again, not in the greatest of shape, but at least you can see it here. It's Action Comics number 285, all right? And this is from February of 1962, all right? And here, Superman decides that it's been, I guess, 3 years, because he first appeared, I think she first appeared in 1959. So he thinks that now is the time that she can be announced to the world so that she doesn't have to keep her existence a secret, and whenever she does good stuff, she can't show herself, that type of thing. So obviously Supergirl is all excited, but the first thing they have to do is tell her adoptive parents, the Danvers, who apparently over these 3 years never found out that she had superpowers, that she is in fact Supergirl and Superman's cousin from Krypton. So as Superman, however, has to go out into space, and so said, when I get back, we'll do all this type of stuff. You know, we'll tell your parents, and then we'll announce you to the world. So while he's away, and again, remember, she has to always keep herself secret. Her parents get into an accident of some sort, and she's with them, but she decides to save them from death by basically showing that she has superpowers. So obviously her parents are all confused, don't know what the hell is going on. But now she's very upset because she feels that she has broken her promise to Superman, and that perhaps Superman now will say, well, now I can't announce it to the world. But when Superman comes back, he's okay with everything she did, and they both explain to the Danvers what happened, and then he announces her to the world. It looks like a ticker tape parade here. And now she is able to go out and do her superhero stuff without fear of exposing herself. So, key comic book. So that was the Superman side of stuff that I found. But I also found, let's see, 4 Batman-related things. 3 detective comics, I can't count, and 1 Batman comic. So let's find out what they are. The first one I have is Detective Comics number 331 from September of 1964. The Elongated Man became a regular in Detective Comics, and often would join with Batman and Robin to basically detect something and find out what's going on. In this particular issue, it was a little weird. I guess some science fiction involved with this. But Bruce Wayne goes to a museum and gets a photograph taken of himself. And when he does, he doesn't remember who he is anymore. Nobody knows where he is. At this point in time, also, in the storyline, Alfred is thought to be dead, and Aunt Harriet was there to help out the boys. So Aunt Harriet, I think she, if I remember correctly, she was in Batman 66, right? In the TV show as well. At least she appeared there, I believe, once or twice. So when the commissioner calls for Batman, Robin goes down and answers and goes to try to capture some robbers. And when he does, he passes by Bruce, and Robin is being basically beat up by the robbers, and that causes Bruce to remember who he is, and gets into a spare Batman costume that he happened to have somewhere and helps Robin. Then he talks to the Elongated Man, wants to investigate this. They investigate together. They find out that some mob boss had some sort of camera which allows people to take on the faces of other people, and he used that to try to steal money from Bruce by going to the bank and taking out $500,000 or something like that, which of course they get back. So that was it. That was Detective number 331 from 1964. The next one was kind of an interesting one. It's Detective 343, and this is from September of 1965. And you see it is the Secret War of the Phantom General. So General Van Dort, I think his name was, Van Dort, he was a Nazi, all right? And he shows up in Gotham City, and he gets a number of kind of low-level thieves and so forth to go and do this robbery spree. And Elongated Man is talking to Batman and Robin and says he remembers reading about different generals and so forth from the Nazis that ended up in South America. And so this General Van Dort, he thought, that, which is kind of going around with these guys and robbing stuff, might have been some Nazi from South America. And so what happens is later on they find out that that was in fact the case, and that the general was actually there trying to get radioactive material, I guess to make up some kind of bomb or something like that. And they basically defeat him and stop him from doing whatever he was going to do with the radioactive material. And the last Detective Comics one is number 356 from October of 1966. And there's been this criminal that's appeared now and then in Detective Comics called the Outsider. And in this issue, what they find out is that the Outsider is actually Alfred, who has been thought to be dead all this time. What happened was that Alfred was transformed by this machine into this evildoer, this character. So when Batman and Robin find out through fingerprints that actually this is Alfred, they put him back in the machine, turn him back to Alfred, bring him back to stately Wayne Manor. And I think this, I don't know if this was the last appearance of Aunt Harriet, but basically it was the start of her leaving. I think she was there for, I don't know, a number of issues, maybe 8 or 10 issues, something like that. And so Alfred goes back to being the butler and no longer being the outsider. And the last one I have is Batman 164 from June of 1964. Okay. And this is kind of a straightforward type of story. You know, Dick Grayson is humming a tune. They're going to go see the Hootenanny Hot Shots. All right. And apparently they take people from the audience to come and help them sing. So I think Dave is hoping to be able to do that. So a criminal, Mr. Dablow, is planning a big heist at a museum where he was going to put together some sort of an exploding device to get people to run away, and he was going to steal $1 million, and I think it's a pearl or pearls worth $1 million. Unfortunately, the Hootenanny Hotshots were going to have a parade in town that was going to go right by there. So he puts a plan in place to detour their parade, you know, and effectively does that and manages to steal the pearls. And then when Batman and Robin go to try to get him, he uses this, I don't know, it looks like a TV antenna to throw out some sort of electric or lightning bolts at them. But Batman and Robin will catch up with him and basically capture him. So that's it. It's a pretty eclectic type of group of comic books that we have. Going way back to a Lois Lane coverless and falling apart comic from 1960, and a bunch of others that are here. Kind of a fun thing to have. It's kind of nice to look into that box and pull out some of these comics. I got a couple of more kind of disparate comics that are in there. So maybe, I don't know, we might have another 6, 7 episodes of this. And, you know, put one up every now and then. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoyed looking at these comics that I collected as a child and that my mom let me keep in 1969 when we moved. If you're interested in this series, I'll put a link right here so you can click on it and see the prior episodes. Be well, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.